Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Costume Co channel. Today, I'm back with another costume designer interview. And my guest today is Charlene Akuamoah. She is the costume designer of the new Netflix series Bet. Welcome, Charlene. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, before we get started on talking about Bet, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started in costume design?
So I actually started out as a stylist. I went to school for fashion, and that's a lie. I started out going to school because I wanted to be a lawyer, or my family wanted me to be a lawyer, and so I did the first year of criminology, and then I said that this is not for me at all. And throughout that time, I was really into fashion, and so I started styling. My friends and I started styling. We did music videos. We did just like editorials. And that kind of grew into a clothing line called Broken Living. And then from then on, my friends and I kind of all went into separate worlds. And so I was working at Winners, and then I got laid off. That's the important part, because my friends and I really wanted to kind of take this clothing line to another level, and we felt like we needed to kind of really take it seriously. But before we could quit, I got laid off. And so a friend of mine reached out to me, and she was working on a film and needed a costume designer. I had never costume designed anything at that point. It was just styling. Those are two very different worlds. But I did it as a favor. I got paid $0, but I saw the screen and I saw the image of what I had designed, and I instantly fell in love. And it kind of progressed from there. I started as an apprentice, and then slowly moved into doing indie projects, and then now I'm here.
That's amazing. Now I watched Bet. It's on Netflix. It's an amazing series,
Yeah.
and I binge watched it. So, how did you get involved with the show?
So a friend of mine, actually, Christine Toy, she had reached out to me to see if I would be interested on working on that project, and she had put my name up for it, which I'm still so very, very grateful for. I love when costumers kind of, say your name in places. And I had actually worked with Boat Rocker before, and so I knew some of the team already. And so they had sent me an email, they'd reached out, and I was tasked with putting together a deck. So this is me putting together my idea of what the school uniform should look like and would look like. And so I got really detailed. I did some illustrations down to the fabrics, down to the silhouettes for our school, and then also for the student council. And then I created sort of a mini collection of what I envisioned the school to look like, and then interviewed with Simon, who is a lovely, lovely, iconic human being. And, I was on board.
That's amazing. For those who aren't familiar with the show, like I mentioned to you, I've binged it, but it's just been out recently, and I think the word is just starting to spread. Without any spoilers, can you tell me a little bit what you think the show is about?
So it is based off of a manga called Kakegurui, which means compulsive gambler. But our version is set in the West, and it is a Japanese transfer student that comes to this school, St. Dominic's, to kind of disrupt what's happening there. It's a thriller. It's based on revenge, and I don't know. It's a really fun story, and Simon Barry really put it so perfectly, where it's not us trying to copy Kakegurui, because there's the manga there, there's the anime that's already on Netflix. They already have like an actual movie. This was us kind of taking the spirit of the manga, and it led us to what Bet is right now.
So, and that brings me to the question: were you a fan of manga before you started on this project? Did you read the source material? Like, it's several novels, several volumes, I believe. So,
No,
what did you do?
I actually didn't. I didn't read manga before I started working on this. I'd read some like comic books here and there, but I'm not really that. I like that type of reader. And so I wasn't familiar with the manga before it was presented to me. And so, when I had the opportunity to kind of design the lookbook for this project, I did study it. I watched the anime, I read the manga. There's quite a few series, just to kind of get my head wrapped around what this world was. And, I knew that moving forward, this was going to be my Bible. And so I definitely wanted to make sure that I had an understanding of the world and where we were heading into.
So when you were designing it, like, how did you translate that? I know they've done a live action version, the Japanese one, but how did you translate it from the manga so that it was a little bit more
Oh, sorry.
Did I freeze?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, sorry. So, how did you translate, like, from a manga, like, which is 2D, into like a live action realistic world, or did you kind of take it and make it your own?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think I took it and kind of made it my own. I really didn't want to lean so heavily into what they had done in the manga, but I still wanted to keep the essence of what that was. So the iconic red blazers, the kilts, the sometimes too short kilts for our girls, and the tartan pants. I wanted to make sure that the essence of what that was still there, but then also updating it, which for me was, creating an entire collection for the school, as opposed to everyone just being in blazers, which is what's in the manga and also the anime. And so for our world, because I wanted it to feel like a real school, we have kids in cardigans, we have vests, we have the blazers. Sometimes they don't wear anything and it's just the shirts with the ties. I wanted to really make sure that we were individualizing all of the characters as well. And again, making it feel like an actual lived in school.
Yeah, actually, Charlene, I went to Catholic school in the GTA, and I totally agree with that, because we would have some people would wear sweater vests, some people would wear no sweaters or long sleeve sweaters. And then one of the things we were allowed to express ourselves. We had to wear a white top, but we could express ourselves through the top, and sometimes jewelry or hair, although we had rules about that. This is back in the 80s, right? We weren't allowed to have our hair above a certain height.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It's so weird.
Yeah.
So, because it was during the Madonna era.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what we would do. We would express ourselves through our tights or socks or footwear or that kind of thing. So I love it. So now the St. Dominic's School, which is very, very cool. The council uniforms, they're sort of distinct from the rest of the school. They're kind of heightened, I guess, right? So can you talk about how you use cut and silhouette to reflect their more elevated status?
Yeah, so I was really inspired by, silhouettes from Schiaparelli, vintage Moschino, Tom Ford, McQueen, and I really wanted those student council uniforms to feel like they had them tailored specifically for them. I think one way that you can tell that, this is an elevated piece is by how well tailored it is to you. And I think that was one way that I could really distinguish the student council from the rest of the student body. And it was, playing with the piping and the coloring. So, one of Kira's blazers has just like that asymmetrical one red piping going down the side, and it's really fitted and really tailored to her. You'll see her in like caplets. She has shorts. She has, a tartan vest that matches the shorts. So we really played with, the many ways in which we could elevate that student uniform. And with the student council, they could do whatever they wanted with that uniform, even though we created a book that was like a school uniform guideline. And so the rest of the student body had to adhere to those guidelines as much as possible. However, the student council could literally do whatever they wanted. And so that's where we see a lot of the DIYs, a lot of the fun plays on what the uniform could look like. So cropped versions for Dory, or, her tie. Dory's tie was like cut and put it back together with chains.
Oh my God, I love that, by the way, or safety pins. I
Yes.
thought that was such a
Yeah.
riot. I love
Yeah.
that.
And so just, her shirt would be cut and put back together with safety pins, just like the many different ways in which we could kind of have fun with the uniform, but also elevate it and make it seem like this was something that was specifically tailored and designed for them.
Yeah, and they're like, I mean, they're sort of like children of oligarchs too. So they would, they'd have all the money in the world. It wouldn't be like when I was in school, we would go to a store, McCarthy's, and buy our uniforms. They could probably have everything custom made, and as long as it's the proper tartan, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
So now, speaking of tartans, according to the show notes, you created custom tartan with the pleat inserts for the school kilts. Like, so I guess it's a tartan, and then you have like a solid, I think, in the pleat. So do you want to walk us through that a little bit?
So we worked with this amazing company called DGN Kilters, and they kind of provide school uniforms for, schools from all over the world. And so they have an extensive library of fabrics, of tartans, of, anything that you could think of. And so they were really helpful and collaborative with us in providing the specific tartan that I was looking for. I wanted a real heritage sort of tartan. And I had sent them some options and some ideas based off of the lookbook that I had created and the deck. And so they sent me some options, and we landed on the castle tartan that you see them wearing in the show. What was fun about that was, this was the first time that DGN worked in film in that big of a capacity. And so it was really about, making sure that we actually had the right amount of fabric, because we had to build so many pants and skirts and whatnots. And so once we got the bolts in hand, they built the skirts for us. They built the trousers for us. And then I really wanted to create some sort of movement in the skirts. And so that's why I wanted that strip in between the pleats, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And so we kind of experimented with different ways in which we could create that effect, so we tried painting it, and, it kind of fell a little flat. And Paul at DGN suggested that we do a DTF transfer, which is where they printed it directly onto the pleats of the kilts themselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So each kilt had individual strips printed onto them, which took quite some time, but it kind of created the effect that I really wanted. And it turned out beautifully. And the pants, again, this was something that they hadn't done before. They hadn't done tartan pants. It's normally just the kilt, and then it goes into the
that was one of my questions for you as well, because again, back to my school, the girls, we had the tartan, and the boys would wear, though we were allowed to wear pants too. The pants would be a solid usually. So, and is it the same tartan? Because it looked different, but maybe it's just because it's not in the
because of the cut.
Yeah.
It's the exact same tartan. And that one was specifically done because of the manga. That was another one of the things that I kind of wanted to make sure stayed consistent, because in the manga and in the anime, they have the tartan skirt and the tartan pants to go with it. And so I wanted to keep that the same. And this was the first time that they had ever done tartan pants. And so they had to be built specifically for us, which was also an incredible experience, because it was kind of us learning together on, what the right cut was, and what the right silhouette would be for our student body.
Now also one of the, there's so many great accessories and everything, but also, you've got like the wigs and the hair and the makeup and the jewelry. So did you work with other departments to sort of come up with that like a nice cohesive? I'm assuming you did.
Yeah.
Were there wigs in the show? I'm just guessing that there were wigs, or was it natural hair?
Especially for Rex.
Yeah.
We had Rex in a wig, and then Miku, who plays Yumeko, her hair was like the bangs were like a clip-in.
Yes.
And yeah, that collaboration with the hair and makeup team was incredible. What a like incredibly talented team of people. It was so fun and so easy to kind of, bounce ideas back and forth between each other. I would send them fitting photos and they would kind of send me ideas of what they thought would work with the costumes that we were putting together. I think the most fun that we had was coming up with different ideas for Rex, because Rex was Suki's like support pet, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, we would give Rex some dog ear hats, or like, just kind of play with harnessing and really have fun there. And that was such a fun collaboration because, we would get
Rex at one point looks like a bit like a poodle, right? Like I remember there's this one scene, his hair looks like a poodle, and then he even has a little bow in it, like a little,
exactly.
Yeah, but then the dog ears as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we had so much fun doing extreme craziness with Rex, and kind of giving our take on what that house pet would look like for Suki.
Mm-hmm.
And Rex really leaning into being Suki's pet, and always having the leash. And if Suki wasn't holding the leash, Rex would hold his own leash. And so partnering with Renee Chan, who did the hair on this, was really incredible to see, because she would actually sketch out some of these looks that she had in her head. And it was just so fascinating. And it kind of inspired me as well to create some fun and interesting pieces to put that together. And I think Rami, who plays Rex, did that so beautifully, and like was such a great sport and had so much fun as Rex. And yeah, it was great.
The whole cast were like, they just
Incredible.
Totally went for it. Like Suki, some of Suki's looks are just incredible.
Yeah.
And like the influencer that she is.
Exactly.
So now for the gala, that was really incredible. What were some of your inspirations for these looks, and how did you collaborate? I read that you collaborated with some outside designers.
Yeah. Okay. So I really wanted the Met Gala to feel like the Met Gala, right? So I really wanted it to feel high-end, couture, runway. Like that was kind of the inspiration behind all of their looks. I looked towards, for Yumeko's dress, for example, I was really inspired by the Versace chainmail dress, and, the ways in which we can kind of create something similar for her character. And her dress looked so beautiful on her, but was such a labor of love. Our sewing team, led by Christopher Parnell, he did such an incredible job, because that dress is actually hand sewn.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
It is chain metal. Like you can't get.
It looked like it had like a heart insert into it.
So we have, it's like kind of like a bra insert that we sequin, like black sequin, in the front sections. And yeah, that entire dress was hand sewn. So, even the draping and making sure that everything sat exactly where it needed to, was a really beautiful process. And, adding, for that dress in particular, I really wanted to add a little extra touch from the manga onto it. So when Yumeko's character is introduced in the manga, the sides of the pages have this floral border to kind of introduce this character. And I thought that was a great way to kind of introduce Yumeko to St. Dominic's. And so I had the team put that floral border on her dress as well. And it's kind of like hand drawn onto the dress. So that one really felt like we were creating a couture piece, because again, the dress was completely hand sewn from top to bottom, with the extra hand drawing detailing on that dress. So that was incredible, built in-house. And same with Kira's dress. That was a really great collaboration between, Christopher and myself and my ACD Sophie. I had an original sketch, and we kind of built off of that, and kind of based on, the changes that were happening in the script, we kind of modified it to what would fit best. And again, I wanted Kira's look to feel very runway, very couture. She is the boss.
Oh yeah.
She
It
commands.
was very svelte, like very kind of Jessica Rabbit, like
Yes,
very
exactly.
like it was sprayed on.
Yes, exactly. And I wanted, like, for all of them, I wanted them to look snatched. I wanted them to look like the pieces were sewn onto them. Because again, with couture, these are custom pieces that are made specifically for you and for your body shape. And so I wanted that to carry into the show. For Michael and Chad's suiting was done by Ellis from Ellis Esquire. And it was such a unique process because, Ellis, again, was so super collaborative. And I had a specific idea of what I wanted for Michael's suiting. And then I saw what Ellis was capable of and what he'd done before. And I really just kind of let him work in his own way. And he created the suit that was asymmetrical. So if you look at Michael's blazer, there's only one lapel on the one side, and then the other
yes,
side is just simple and straight. And then his pants have this pleating down the front of both of his legs that you don't really see, but put together, it's just really, really beautiful and really felt like something that Michael would do. And for Runa, hers was so fun because her character only wears onesies, and so we were thinking about what kind of onesie would Runa do for this ball, and my assistant costume designer Sophie came up with this incredible idea of doing the penguin onesie, but with
which is a tuxedo.
Exactly.
Yes.
We had that was a really fun moment because we had the little.
I don't know if I have a picture of that one because I think I have some pictures of her. I don't think I have.
I don't think we have a picture of that one because originally she was supposed to be in a penguin onesie for another episode, and then we ended up switching it and turning it into the tuxedo penguin that we see her in, and that look was paired with a pair of tuxedo pants from the row, and it was just it still felt very. She was still in designer while still wearing that onesie, just kind of showing that balance of her playfulness but also her wealth, paired with Swarovski jewels that still looked like candy. And then Dory's costume was so beautiful. There was the slit moment with the chains coming out, and we had her eye patch bejeweled by Rita Tessalin, who's an incredible Canadian designer. She does the most amazing, beautiful jewelry. We worked closely together to put together an iconic eye patch for Dory's, moment with Michael. She bedazzled it. She added chains. There are studs in there. It was just a really stunning moment for her. And then Renee with hair came up with this incredible spike crown moment for Dory as well, which I thought was so beautiful, and it brought everything together in such a beautiful way. And then the other moment that I really loved was for Riri. So this is our masked, our silent masked killer. And we really wanted, this was a great collaboration with Anwen because she wanted a little bit of a shield. She was Mary's protector, essentially, and she wanted to feel like there was some armor on her. And so we, again, with Rita Tessalin, we created this incredible jeweled mask with, jeweled shoulder piece that came with chains hanging down. It was just a really powerful, strong moment for Riri. And, seeing it lit up when her and Mary are having that dinner.
Yes.
It made it it just brought that costume to life in such a way that
it was funny because my husband watched the show with me and he was like, is she wearing a different mask? I'm like, honey, she's wearing a different mask every single time. she styles her mask depending on her mood or the location or the yeah, the situation. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I totally noticed that one though. It was like beautiful. Like it would look
Yeah.
like jet beads or something.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
And
just gorgeous.
Rita, like it was all sewn on. It was
Mhm.
just beautifully done. Rita's an incredible talent, and I like partnering with her often on projects because she just gets me and she knows exactly what it is that I'm looking for. But yeah.
Yeah, and also the other thing I was going to ask regarding the colors that you're using. So for Miku, uh, uh, her dress is red. Is that sort of her color? Is red sort of was that sort
Yeah.
of decided ahead of time? Also, just even in the marketing, I'm noticing the red. Like, by the way, I love the bat with the little like all the little swirls, like you
Oh,
were
but
saying.
yes. Same.
I just was like, I said to my husband, that's like the cutest title I've ever seen. I'm using just the generic one right now, but in the opening of the show, just is so stunning.
It's so great. And one of the fans actually created a fan edit where it shows the opening of each episode and how different they are.
Oh,
It's
wow.
cool. Yeah. The fans have been
It's
doing
stunning. And also just even just all the graphics that pop up during the
yeah,
show, just they're so clever. But yeah, so it seems like her color is that beautiful, like really rich red. And her, of course, her lipstick is always red, Yumeko. So did you want to speak to that a little bit?
yeah, I think that was something that we came up with earlier on. It just for me, red just symbolizes power, you know, and I think there's something very powerful about Yumiko, very strong, very she's very strong-minded, very level-headed to a degree. And I think it just made sense for us to use that to be her, you know, her signifying color. Whereas Kira's was blue. You know, in the anime, she has the blue lipstick, and so that was just the natural color for her, and it almost feels like fire and ice to me. And so that moment at the Met Gala when they're dancing together, having that red and blue just kind of like swirling together is just that mix of fire and ice, and kind of how those elements play in St. Dom's.
Yeah, absolutely. And also she just like I love how you do the little like ribbon ties as well, but you'll do them in different colors. So she
Yeah.
often has that beautiful and you change it up too, which is kind of neat. Sometimes it's a necktie, sometimes it's like one of those ribbon ties. So
Yeah.
um now were there moments when you leaned more into the animated like okay, it's a bit heightened, right? It's
Yeah.
not like grounded, it's
Yeah.
it's a bit heightened. So
Yeah.
were there times when I think you've mentioned this to me already, where you're leaning more into the manga sort of aesthetic as opposed to just realism?
I think the moments in which I really leaned into kind of like the anime of it and like the characterization of these characters was in Suki and Rex's characters. I think I wanted that to feel very, very camp, very fun, very playful. Those two characters together, like when they're in a scene together, it's hilarious. And I wanted their costumes to kind of be heightened versions of that. And so, you know, in one of the episodes where it's the hunt, and they're in their tracksuits, you know, everyone else has regular tracksuits, but then we see Suki and Rex, and Suki's in this like bedazzled tracksuit with like camo and matching, you know, beret. And then, you know, Rex is in like a little shorty version of the tracksuit with poodle sleeves and, you know, just kind of really leaning into that. And so I think there were moments where I felt like it was really important to kind of play up on that in the anime or in the show, just to kind of tie back to the fact that this is still a fun and playful show, and these characters are still very colorful and very, you know, animated. And I think the costuming for that really had to reflect those characters.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really over the top scenes, like the one when they're. Well, I don't want to give away too much stuff, but the one where they're at the retreat, and you know, the staff have to basically try to climb on top of each other to get that you know, bound up. Yeah, like it just kept getting more and more outrageous, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
like,
with that episode too, if you know look very closely to Rex's shirt and what he's wearing, it actually says emotional support pet on his shirt, which was another idea from my assistant costume designer Sophie. She was just having so much fun with
Oh my
Rex
gosh, it's so funny.
and creating such incredible ideas for him. And Rami again was so down to do whatever. But yeah, it was fun working.
And also Suki, by the way, at the gala, Suki's I think it's at the gala, she's like dressed up like a bunny.
Yeah.
And then it's it's a reveal.
And then his reveal,
but that outfit that she's wearing underneath that, what is that? Like I was like, is it like a pleather? What was that?
It is a pleather. It's like a metallic pleather, or a vinyl fabric.
It was very it was almost like very architectural feeling.
Yeah. So I think that was a happy accident because of the fabric itself. The fabric was so stiff. It was something that I saw online, and I just couldn't find it again afterwards. And so I was like, we have to recreate this. I saw the pair of pants in a store, and I grabbed the pants and I said, we need this. There needs to be a full version of this. And so, it took us a while to kind of find the fabric that matched it. And then again, my sewing team, incredibly talented, building that from scratch and kind of working with Suki to make that happen. And then I don't know if you've noticed, but Suki's boots that he's wearing are these like super high, chunky, silver, sparkly platforms, which we were literally like, take these home and walk around in them so that you're comfortable because you are wearing this with this outfit.
Yes.
And he was super down. I really wanted that moment because it's such a big reveal. I wanted that moment to feel extravagant. Suki is such a big character. He's an influencer. He wants people to see him. He wants to be, the center of attention. And I wanted to make sure that moment.
He collects nails. Or
exactly.
She? Is it he? Sorry, I'm calling it.
In the manga and the anime, Suki's a female.
Okay.
Woman.
So they did it.
And then in our world, we kind of switched that up. But still kind of in that queer, still in that queer world, and still playing with the nails. And I think that part was also really fun because I got to do whatever I wanted with Suki, which is always my favorite thing to do is have ideas, bring them to Simon, and Simon was always just like, yeah, I love this, let's do it.
That's awesome. That's got to be so freeing to be able to have that.
It's the most incredible feeling where you can have an idea and just make it come to life and have people around you that are willing to support and experiment and make it happen. And Simon was really great about just letting me do my thing, and really trusting and championing me and my team to kind of make these costumes happen. I think it's evident in what we did with Rex and how we worked with Suki, and it was really kind of a fun playground to do as much as we possibly could, and still keeping within the essence of the manga.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about the sort of the mascot head for the bunny? Did you create that as well?
No, that was the props department.
Oh, okay. But what about the beaver? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a collaboration between us and making sure that the costume worked with the bunny head, and the headphones matched what Suki was wearing. So it was a great collaboration between myself and my team and the props master to kind of get that bunny head made.
It was so cute.
Yeah.
It was such a cute bunny. Now, what about the beaver? Which, by the way, is that a Canadian homage? Having a beaver and then having a wrestler. It was like a real wrestler. I think he is.
Yeah. It was.
I worked with a wrestler years ago, so I was really curious about that.
That was really interesting. The beaver was the bane of my existence. We had to. It was built somewhere else and then had to be shipped there. But then the timing was we were getting closer to when we actually had to film that beaver, and it literally arrived like moments before we filmed that beaver's first scene.
Oh my gosh.
And so we originally had the beaver in a different beaver costume, but it wasn't quite right. but it was kind of like our backup costume. The one that we really wanted was en route. And literally that day, we got the notification that it had landed, and then we had to drive it to the location of where we were filming and switch out the beaver costume and run him to set. Like, it was literally the down to the very last second of getting this.
And was there a round of applause when he arrived on set?
Everyone was excited. Everyone was so happy.
Yeah, it was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm assuming it was a different person playing the beaver than during the actual. Okay.
Yeah. We had a different person, and so I had to get a second beaver costume, which that process was a little bit easier. But it was mainly the first one that kind of caused all of us some emotional stress.
Oh, I'm sure.
We were constantly on beaver watch to make sure that it arrived at the time it needed to, and it did. Everything always works out the way it's supposed to, even when there's a little bit of stress involved.
By the way, I was going to say, this is a really weird thing. Just a side note, I'm going to tell you. So I live like in the west end of Toronto, or I live in the east end of Toronto, like in the Scarborough area. Mm-hmm. And I was in the beach one day, and I ended up meeting Miku's mom. Yeah. So what happened was, she owns a diner in the beach. Mm-hmm. She's super lovely. And she tells me, I don't know if I told her I had a YouTube channel. She says, my daughter's an actress. And I said, no way, really? She goes, yeah, she's going to be in the new Star Trek movie.
Yep.
And so I watched it. I watched the Star Trek movie. My husband's a huge Trekkie person. Mm-hmm. So, and then I saw this show come up and that she was starring, and I'm like, oh my God, I met her mom. So I feel so honored. She's lovely. She's so cute. She was like showing pictures of her daughter and telling me the story of how her daughter got into acting.
Yeah.
Well, she's going to be, I mean, she's going to be a huge star. She was amazing in this. And boy, she must have been so fun to dress.
Oh my gosh, she was so fun. From our very, very first fitting, she was just so excited. And it was so fun collaborating with her because, she had such strong ideas about who Yumeko was and who this version of Yumeko was and kind of what her motivations for certain things were. And so everything that she wears was very thought out and very detailed. And I had such an incredible time working with Miku because she's just so kind and really open to whatever it was that we were kind of trying to put her in. But then she also, and I really appreciate this about actors, when they have like a really strong understanding of their characters and can kind of inform why they wear certain things. It really kind of helps us build out the character arc and like where this is going and where they're going and why. And Miku was really great about really being intentional about why she would wear certain things.
Mm-hmm. One of the things we haven't quite touched on, I hope you don't mind me adding, is the retreat. Like, so this is an opportunity to see all of our characters out of their uniforms. Yeah. And, aside from the gala. So did you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, is this your way of showing their personalities that where they can express themselves? It's kind of like we used to have Civies Day. This is your this is your time to like show it off. So did you want to tell me a little bit about some of those outfits that they were wearing?
Yeah, so I this was definitely a collaboration with all of them. Because again, they had been in uniforms for an entire season. And so as you can imagine, they were really excited to be in, regular clothes. And so we really kind of thought about each one of them and what their personalities were, what are some of the things that would really, speak to them as their characters. And so with Ryan, for example, he's wearing this really incredible cardigan by, I believe the brand was called Drôle Monsieur. And
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
It looked incredible on him. And
it looked so good.
Yeah, I was really, this was a moment where we could see who Ryan is outside of school. And now that he's this elevated, hot version of himself, after Mary's makeover, it was really important to make sure that he had a certain swag, a certain street style about him. And so I feel like that cardigan and that whole outfit really kind of spoke to who Ryan, the new Ryan, was. And yeah, I think it looked incredible on him, like those
Yeah,
colors.
I love when he's having that little fantasy moment in the car where he's driving in the car. And then I said, "This isn't happening."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of course, he
That
loves
was
Miku.
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then with Miku as well, I think again, Miku is her character is so, it's very determined. Like she has a plan. She had a plan the entire time she was at that school. And, I wanted her looks to be very streamlined and very clean and very to the point. Kind of, mirroring who she was and what her role was. But also keeping in line with kind of that anime silhouette, the short skirts and, the tall boots and really, really speaking to that world, but then also this version of Yumeko and why she's really here. With with Mary's character, she was really that like coquette kind of character to me. There's a lot of bows in her uniforms, and so we kind of wanted to carry on that silhouette and give it a really a little bit more of like an elevated look. We had a custom corset made for her, and still keeping the ribboning in her cardigan, but then also, having her shoes with the ballet kind of aesthetic, and really playing up
She looks
on
like a doll a little bit. Like she reminds me
exactly
of a doll, like with the bows in her hair and the
exactly
long ribbons. It does sort of feel a bit of Japanese with that. And then just she like always she has a lot of lace, like her blouses. I
yeah,
noticed you would put a strong tie on her, but it would be like an eyelet lace or something.
exactly
Yeah, like or a scallop.
yeah,
But yeah, and then it just it had a very Victorian,
exactly
doll
yeah.
sort of feel. She was so cute.
Yeah,
Was
I
that a
really
wig?
wanted
That must
to.
have been a wig though.
No, those were braids.
You're kidding. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Her hair was braided throughout.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I loved it.
yeah, it was great. Like and I'm glad that you brought up Victorian, because that was kind of where we were with Riri's world. Riri was this like Victorian ghost almost, and so even throughout her uniforms, you would kind of see it in the shapes and the silhouettes and the trims, and her masks, and that kind of moved into what she was wearing at the retreat. And her and Mary together, like they kind of mirror each other and what it is that they're wearing, and it kind of speaks a little bit to their love story. And that's kind of where we wanted that to land. We wanted to create kind of that mirror between the two. Yeah, I think it looked great.
Have you watched the show yourself, by the way? Have you
I
watched
have,
the whole season?
yeah,
And so were you kind of like, pat on my back, Charlene, great job?
I'm very hard on myself, and I'm always looking for mistakes. But honestly, my team did an incredible job. Like I can't even stress enough just how much work, and how much time and how much a heart went into creating these costumes. And I'm really, really proud of what our team did. And yeah, I think it was beautifully done. I think the Met Gala was definitely the highlight of it all. And I think it really speaks to the technical skills and the detail, the attention to detail that my team really had, because though again, we created couture. Like it was making these gowns by hand and like hand painting things onto them, and really just being so meticulous and so very detailed, and pulling references from the manga to kind of tie the worlds together. I'm really proud. I'm really proud of what we did and how it turned out. And I'm really happy that the fans are loving it. And, seeing all the fan edits have been so fun, and incredible. And it kind of shines a new light on the costuming as well. And on how, some of the characters blend together. And, there's been a few that I've seen where I was like, I didn't even really think that that's how it would come off and how it would read, but it all works out.
So have you seen any cosplays of your costumes yet?
Not yet.
On Instagram or?
No, I've seen a lot of illustrations.
Which is fun too, of your costumes, right?
Yeah, which is so fun. I've seen some incredible illustrations of like Riri and the different versions of her masks. And I've seen, Runa's onesies, which
we should show. I should show those right now.
Yeah.
I have them here. Maybe we can. Okay, so this one, I call them by their animal name, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. So I'm
Okay.
calling this one koala.
This was a panda.
Okay, I'm not even
Oh,
close.
these
I think I meant panda. Yes.
so
So you want
these
to tell me a bit about
illustrations
this?
were done by an incredible artist called Serene. And this is what basically I presented to Netflix to be like, these are all the onesies that Runa is going to be wearing this season.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And so based off of this, our team took this and created them from scratch. So all of Runa's onesies were built in-house. And, you know, because we were filming this in the summer, poor Laura, she was hot, and we built pockets inside so that we can put ice packs in them.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
Because you were shooting at U of T, I believe, right?
we shot at U of T.
And lots of those spaces are not air conditioned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if they were, we would have to turn it off for sound.
Exactly.
So, you know, making sure that she stayed cool with the ice packs on the inside was really important. But yeah, the original manga and the anime has Runa in a rabbit costume.
Oh, okay.
So what we decided to do here is that she would be in a different one in every single episode. And, you know, at first, again, fans were in an uproar because they thought that Rex was Runa, which was really cool. Because they saw a photo of Rex with like the dog ears and were like, oh my God, I can't believe they changed Runa and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, eventually they set the record straight. And, you know, now I'm seeing so many fan edits of all of Runa's onesies, which is really cool. But yeah, so this first one, Panda Bear, again, these weren't specific to anything in particular, except for the frog onesie.
Yeah, which I have here.
Yeah, so the frog onesie was because we knew that we were going to film Runa by the pool eventually. And so we thought it would be funny to have her in a frog onesie. And I don't know if you could see, but her towel has like I think it's called a lily pad on it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
And the first time we see Runa, she's in her shark onesie.
Yeah, which is here.
Because she is the lone shark. Yeah. And so, again, a play on kind of who she is. And then also having her in this really cool onesie, which, again, my sewing team was incredible. And watching them kind of build these things was such a fun experience. Yeah, they did such an incredible job.
Would you make them out of like a fleece?
Yeah, they're out of fleece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a lion, which is so cute.
With the tail.
Adorable.
Personal, which is also a favorite of mine, just because I have this really cute video of Laura by the trailers kind of whipping her tail around, which is really funny.
Yeah, so she worked it. And I don't know what this one is. What is this?
This is an axolotl.
Oh, my son loves axolotls, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cute.
So this is for the episode of The Hunt. I wanted to squeeze this axolotl in here because I felt very passionate about axolotls.
Yes.
And I thought they were so freaking cute, and just thought it made sense to have one as a onesie, because why not?
Well, and what's nice too is you can see actually the details in the tartan and on the kilt as well. You can see that. And then the sweaters, because you had a lot of like, even on the cardigans and things, I think you had them bound with that sort of red.
Yeah, so there was, so the student body uniforms were all red.
Yeah.
And then the student council uniform was flipped, so it was black with the red detailing. And one of the things that I loved about the uniforms, and kind of when I was building out that collection, I put like black stripes on the cardigans just to signify like vintage blackjack dealers and how they always have that. Yeah. And so that was kind of a little nod to that, because these kids stay gambling, nobody goes to class. And so I kind of wanted to put a little nod to the casino world there.
Now, before I let you go, we do have some flashbacks. So that must have been sort of challenging, right? Because you're dealing with, I believe, she's only like, I don't even know how old she's supposed to be in the flashbacks.
I think she was like 16 in the flashback.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. And then so the scene where she watches her parents in the car.
That's in that scene. I think she's like 8.
Oh, 8. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. And then it's supposed to take place in Japan as well, I understand,
I
right?
believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
that was intent.
So, was that like a little bit challenging? Like, because must have been like you're pulling yourself away from the school and that whole environment, and because it felt a little bit more realistic. And it's also, I guess, it's her memory, right? It's a memory. So, what was it like dressing that scene?
That was cool because that required us to do kind of a ton of research and
Mhm.
and kind of see what people were wearing in Japan around that time. And I think that was like 2013-ish. So yeah, my team and I did a lot of research to kind of see what the world looked like in Japan at around that time. And we really wanted to lean into, because her parents were in the tech world. I wanted to see what that aesthetic looked like back then. So it was definitely a lot of like going down rabbit holes and finding really cool, interesting Japanese blogs and street style blogs from 2013, because I really wanted her parents to still look cool, and but also not too cool. I wanted them to look like parents, right? But
Mhm, yeah.
you know, in 2013, Japanese people dress incredibly cool and stylish, and so I went down a ton of rabbit holes, went through old magazines, just to see kind of what that aesthetic looked like. And then for Mrs. Kawamoto, we actually took a class on how to properly tie a kimono.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
Myself and my truck supervisor, we went and took a class on how to properly wrap it. We went through every single layer. There was a lot of steps. There was a lot of layers. It took us about 45 minutes to an hour to tie it properly. And so that prep time for her was quite some time. But I wanted to make sure that we were doing it right, and it wasn't just kind of a thing that we just did. I really wanted to have that moment and pay respect, and make sure that, if we were going to introduce this outfit, that we were doing it right and doing it
Mhm.
justice.
Well, Charlene, like, when did you wrap this show?
We wrapped, I believe it was August of last year.
Okay, so have you been working on anything in between?
Yeah, I worked on a Blumhouse project. I can't say
Oh, wonderful. I love Blumhouse. I'm a
yeah,
huge
but
horror
it's
fan.
it's going to be really fun.
Okay.
So that was a great project, and I'm currently in Vancouver filming an Amazon series, and I'll be here for quite some time. So,
Well, I hope you'll come back and
oh
tell me about some of your new projects, especially Blumhouse, because I actually I'm a huge horror fan.
yeah,
So
it's
that's
good. It's a good
Yeah. I
project.
actually one of the things I love about this show is it kind of it's like a crime thriller,
Yeah,
coming of age.
yeah,
Maybe not a coming of age.
a thriller. Yeah,
Edgy YA, I don't know. I kind of loved it. It kind of ticks a lot of the boxes.
yeah.
So as soon as I heard about it, I'm like, I'm watching that. So, and before I let you go, is there any word? Do we know if there's going to be a season 2? Because we had a kind
No,
of like set up for season 2.
I don't know yet.
I know. I hate that.
I don't know. We'll see. Everyone
Okay.
keep streaming, keep watching, and crossing fingers
Mhm.
for season 2.
Are you on Instagram? Because if you are, actually, I think I follow you on Instagram. I'm going to add your Instagram. So
Yeah,
hopefully maybe you'll start posting some photos.
yeah.
Some
I've
behind the
started.
scenes
I've
photos.
started posting some behind the scenes photos. I've been a bit busy on this show, so I haven't been able to do as much. But yeah, I've started posting some behind the scenes and some process photos. So yeah, give me a follow.
And maybe you'll go to Fan Expo and see
Absolutely.
some of the attendees dressed up in your costumes.
That'd be so cool.
And you could do a panel. You could do a what do they do when you judge the
Oh, when I
cosplayers?
finish costumes, oh,
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah,
that.
you
That'd
could
be
do
so
something
cool.
like that. Anyway, I think you're gonna blow up because this show is hot.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love, and I think this is a prime example of what you can create when you're collaborating with all the departments, and when your showrunner and even Netflix, like when they champion you and support you and trust your vision and trust you to be creative, and yeah, you make something incredible.
And Charlene, I mean, all designers do this, but I really appreciate you like shouting out all of your team and, all the
Yeah.
hard work that they did because we
Yeah.
know it is a collaborative effort. And, but anyways, that's wonderful. So yeah, so if you're watching this, please follow Charlene on Instagram. And do you have a website as well?
Yes, it's afiasco.ca.
Okay, so I'm going to add that as well to the link below.
Awesome.
And anyway, Charlene, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure meeting you, and I really
Thank
appreciate you taking
you.
the time. And you're a little bit ahead of me in Vancouver. I'm in Toronto, but I hope next time you come to Toronto, we can maybe like do another interview or chat or
Yes.
meet up or something.
I'll be back in Toronto, I think, after October. So I'll be
Okay,
back home.
awesome.
And yeah.
Okay, well, thanks so much, and thanks everyone for watching this. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. So check out Bad. It's on Netflix right now. They've
Yes.
they put the whole thing out there, so you can binge watch it over the weekend and enjoy. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get a season 2.
Fingers crossed. Let's pray.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.